night, all. Welcome back. Thank yourself for surviving yet again another day. I have a returning and special guest with me, and we're going to discuss some interesting topics. We're going to look at disaster trolls, the alt media, and so much more. Neil, do introduce yourself to the audience, kind sir.
Hello, I'm Neil Sanders of neilsandersmindcontrol.com, and someday I call it Conspiracy Podcast.
Indeed. Welcome back. Thank you for your time, firstly. As we were discussing previously, let's just dive straight into it.
Uh-huh.
Shall we let's pick up on the far right stuff and
Well,
and
should we explain and assassinate my character first, like with the BBC explanation?
oh, okay. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes. Let's do that. Let's do that then. Yes, that's a good place to start. Disaster
Because
trolls.
you're going to lose quite a few people almost immediately.
Well, no, I think this is the whole point, and we're going to get into the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is what me particularly likes to do, to explore every different type of avenue and try and have that dialogue and that conversation. So
Mhm.
we've had BBC Four do a little audio little thing, and we've also had a film crew going out doing some bits and pieces relating to and again, this is all good to do to question people who are questioning the mainstream narrative. Now, I watched the film version, which and as soon as I saw yourself on there, I thought,
Bloody hell, what's Neil doing on there?
I'm like, exactly? Like, what are you doing on here? I'm
Yeah.
going to be interested to see what exactly is said. And you've echoed many, a lot of the sentiments which we've spoke about historically.
Hmm.
But there wasn't the continuity. I could see the edits being done and the length of time. I'm like, this is being cut and pasted into a way that, what is the full package? What exactly did he sit down? I'm sure it must have been at least a 20-minute conversation to 30 minutes and have condensed it down into maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Oh
So we
no, on
had
television I was on there for all of 15 seconds.
oh God, it was that short.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I said something about that Richard didn't used to believe they didn't used to believe the crisis actor trope, the theory that events are faked, and we'd had
Okay.
conversations in the past where basically he said that this is a silly thing to even pursue, and then it cut to another bit of me saying, "Oh, Richard does rather well." And I think that what you'll find is that the stories that get the most traction, strangely, are stories that actually get have the
Mm,
least evidence. But offer a sort of compelling narrative or something that people can get on board with, basically.
yes.
And so that was it. And then it cut. And if I'm honest, I wasn't particularly happy with the way that the television came out. And actually, I did actually phone them up and say, "Hang on, that's not really what I said at all, is it?" But I sort of get it because like although it altered what I said, it didn't actually sort of wasn't it didn't alter the facts of the matter. It was just a way of sort of like spinning on the narrative.
Exactly, Neil. What it did is change the whole content and essence of what you were saying and
Well, it
narrowing
changed the
it.
essence of what I was saying, certainly, but I get what they did in regards to the narrative of the program because,
Yes.
like, do you know what I mean? So it was one of those really weird things where I was annoyed because basically it made me look like I'd said something that I hadn't said, but actually, like, I could totally understand why they'd done it for like, for time
Viewership.
like concerns and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I did actually think that the television show wasn't particularly fair. Now, even though there was nothing in there that wasn't accurate, why I didn't think it was fair was because it didn't give anything like an explanation of why Richard has done this. In
Yes.
fact, what it did was it implied that Richard had done it for money or for.
Monetary, monetary purposes, simple as, yeah.
This is what it implied it as, yeah, yeah, which I made clear was not the case. And if you actually listen to as I know you have done. Like,
Yeah.
there's a supporting thing. There's the Panorama program. Then there's a podcast called Disaster Trolls, and basically that I was on for 15 whole minutes rather than 15
Mm,
whole seconds. And the point of that was to explain that, contrary to what it inferred on the television program, that actually Richard isn't interested in money or particularly in fame, outside of the fact that, he's proud of what he does, and
yes.
he thinks of himself as a journalist who's uncovered some sort of great big fraud that's been perpetuated on the public. And he wants to expose this so that it doesn't happen to anybody again, basically. Now, I'll reiterate, I think that he's wrong. I think that he's absolutely 100% wrong with his regards to his theory on the Manchester bombing.
So
Um,
let's unpack that in a little bit more detail then. So what is your I mean, because when I first heard about it,
yeah.
as someone who questions everything, I was like, let me see some more detail. Let's see exactly what's going on. And then when I watched his documentary thing,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if this is indeed correct what he's saying, like some of this clearly does not add up. Like that well, I tell you what, the biggest thing for me was the guy on the phone wailing.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting one because that is the crux of his thing. So the guy that's wailing, looking for his daughter, and he says
Yes,
something along the lines of, he's got a Liverpool accent, and he
yes,
says something along the lines of, "Oh, they don't know. I've just come past this load of bodies. There's all bits of bodies
yes.
down there." Yeah, okay. Now that was the crux of Richard's. That was the main part of his theory, and the part is that when the bloke is walking along, whose name I cannot remember, there's a chap that is seen in the background wearing like a beige coat, and he's with his girlfriend, and I forget his name as well, but we'll call him Beige for the
Mm.
sake of this, for simplicity. So in the footage, you can clearly see Beige going towards his pocket, like as if he's going to get something out of his pocket, and that convinced Richard that the entire thing was fake.
But from recollection, because it's been a while,
No,
wasn't
no,
that?
no, no, no. Let me explain what the significance of that is.
Yeah.
But and that sounds like it's glib, because it is, because that's exactly what he said. Now, Richard's evidence is that he's looked at the statements of Beige, right? Okay, and Beige said that he left the arena after the bomb had gone off. Right, so he was in there with his girlfriend. The bomb went off, and then he left the arena and he went out into the corridor. Okay, but Richard says, because the man is going into his pocket, that clearly shows that the concert is not over. That's his evidence. That's it. Right, now let me just debunk that really quickly, because it's very, very simple. If he's in the corridor with his girlfriend walking towards the exit, and we know he's doing that because the other bloke's coming from the exit, doesn't that really more indicate that that's after the bomb's gone off and that they're leaving? And I've had this conversation with Richard. He says, well, what's he going to his pocket for? He's clearly going to buy a drink. It's like, well, you don't know that he's going to buy a drink. He could be getting his car keys, or
That's a
his,
hype.
or his
Yeah.
train ticket, or he could be scratching his fucking bollocks, right? Or he could be doing anything. And here's the second thing that debunks that entire thing, really, really straightforward. You know, the bloke who's wailing looking for his daughter,
Yes.
where is he? Where is he? He's in the
The,
corridors
the,
of
isn't it the
the
foyer
stadium.
part, isn't it? Isn't that the foyer part, isn't it? He's not in the
No, it's
corridor,
the
is he?
circular bit where all the shops and the merchandise
Yes.
and is that
Yeah.
circles the actual arena.
Okay. Yeah.
He's in there looking for his daughter, yes. He's been let in by security, yes, which proves that the concert is over, because otherwise you can't get in without a ticket.
Well,
So
what?
then immediately, the two things that he thinks actually prove that this is fake, which is spurious at fucking best, a more reasonable explanation of it is that, oh no, they're leaving after the bomb. He's been let in after the concert's finished, and he's looking for his daughter. And the bloke's going into his pocket for any number of fucking reasons that
Well,
anybody might go into their
forget the
pocket.
pocket business. That's
That's it. You say forget your pocket. That's the evidence
yeah.
that
No,
he's
no.
going in his
I'm
pocket.
saying. In
That's
regards
not
to
me.
the hype,
That's in Richard's documentary. That's the crux of it. That he's going to his pocket, which proves that the concert isn't over.
that is a hypothesis, and as you say,
That's his evidence. Yes, that's his hypothesis.
yeah. So, as you say, that could have been a train pass. He could have been scratching himself. It could have been a number of things he's doing while he's got his hands in his pocket. So, outside of that, okay. So, there's a
One
statement. So,
bit
what
of
you're saying
evidence that
is,
was actually very, very compelling, right? Okay, or not compelling, but interesting, is the timestamps on the photos that suggest that it was done at a different time to the actual. They don't match the bombing,
mhm.
which on the face of it seems like a very, very sort of like, wow, that's crazy. But it transpires that actually that can happen. Like it's not uncommon for it to happen. Either there's been a coding error somewhere, or somebody's inputted the wrong a setting on their camera.
Well,
They're in
isn't it
uh,
all geosynced?
yeah, yeah, but if you set it up in the wrong way, basically you can. There's ways that it can alter.
Okay.
It's not a solid gold thing. It's interesting and might prove to be very, very, but it's not something that has never happened before and could never happen.
So,
So
Screaming Man has it. There's a statement supporting that he
yeah,
w was let into the stadium by security or police post the bomb going off. Yes.
yeah.
So what? Okay. So
So
let's
that
examine
debunks
that.
Richard's thing because Richard's idea is that basically the bloke was in there before the bomb went off,
Well,
and he
he
was
had to have been because think about it.
why?
Let's think because
Why did he have to be
security.
there before?
He has no tickets.
Yeah,
He has no ticket, and an incident has taken place at an
yeah.
arena. No security guard or police should be letting anybody in there who is not an official person. So how did on earth would he let
Well,
in
because
there?
the concert must have been over.
Well,
That's
you
the
said,
point. Because the
oh,
concert's over, so they're letting parents in to collect their children.
so okay, so he's letting literally like minutes or seconds before the actual bomb goes off. Then,
No, no, he's in after the bomb. That's why he's gone past all the bits of bodies
so why are they? I don't. That doesn't make.
to
Why are
get
they
his
letting?
daughter.
But that's a crime scene that they don't let people.
Well,
I don't
he's
get.
gone past it. He's gone past the foyer and he's into the corridors. The foyer sort of has these sort of like these corridors that go off of it, and they go around the arena, around the edge of the arena.
I get that. I get that.
So he's gone in there to get his daughter. The bomb's gone off, and he's gone, "Oh my God, my daughter's down there," and
So
run down
that
the corridor to find his daughter.
those areas are going to be because I don't know, man. I've never been to that arena
Have
before.
you
So
ever
that
been to a concert? Do you know who runs the security? Students. Do you know how easy it is to get into those concerts? You flash a tenner and they'll let you in. Like this idea that it would be instantly a secure crime scene, it just wouldn't work. And even if it was instantly a secure crime scene, then there's even less chance of getting in before the bomb. Like if that's what you're saying that he wouldn't have got past security, then yeah, there's even less chance of getting in before the concert's over. It's
uh,
nonsense. He's got his timings wrong. That's it, and it's insignificant anyway. Basically, all that would show is an anomaly in the time if he was correct, and I don't think he's correct because, as I say, it all based on the idea that what is the man doing in the corridor, reaching for his pocket, unless he's getting a drink and going back into the arena. That's the evidence. That's not me explaining it. That's how it's explained in the thing. And it's ridiculous because it's like, well, no, the more likely thing is that because he's with his girlfriend and it matches up with his statement, the statement that you're using to try and to express the timeline, that he's left because a bomb's gone off. And so he's walking towards the entrance, which is the entrance that we're going. And even if he is going in his pocket to get a drink, maybe his girlfriend needs a drink after having heard a bomb go off. She's shocked and she really wants a sugary drink to like take away the stress. It's ridiculous. This like if you'd have shown the evidence of like you know rehearsals or anything like that or any actual evidence, but it's basically everything is key on looking at something and going, I don't think that's what it says it is. Right. And then, but then your explanation is like, okay, fine. But there's a simpler, more logical explanation for this thing that you think is an anomaly. The other big thing of Richards is he thinks that the light is coming through. He says, oh, they haven't closed off the curtains in the foyer and you can clearly see the light, the white light coming through from outside. And it takes 4 seconds of looking at that and going, that's not white light coming from outside. That's the white light that's above the ticket booths on the opposite side, reflecting back onto the glass. So there just really isn't anything. I mean, one of the main things is I've actually met some of the people. I've seen footage of them walking in to the arena, being able to walk, and I've met them, and now they can't walk. So something happened.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I actually do know. So this was the thing that always set me off. It's like I, I'm not in the office that I work, but in the Yorkshire office for the company that I work for. This is a woman who worked there that numerous people that I know have known for years and years and years. She died. She died protecting her daughter and her niece, and her daughter and her niece have got shrapnel still in them and scars. Like, are we supposed to believe that this woman who worked in my office has been in cahoots with the military intelligence to just abandon her daughter and her niece, leave them massively traumatized, and what, fuck off and live in Hollywood under an assumed name? Why?
If that seems very, should we say, far-fetched?
There's easier ways to achieve. You know, if you want to achieve like any of the things that you wanted to achieve, like this idea that basically, oh, they don't do real bombings anymore, right? Because that would be a crime. Do you not think perpetuating a fraud on the public of this large is a crime? Of
Of
course, it's
course,
a
of
fucking
course.
crime. In fact, in many ways, it's a worse crime than just setting a bomb off at a concert because like you're playing with people's emotions and destroying hundreds of different lives with deception. Like, so it's just anybody that thinks that it's a plausible thing to like to basically like, do you know how many rehearsals they would have had to have done to have pulled this off? And yet they still got it fucking wrong. Have you ever worked in the theatre or tried to put on a play or event management or
There's
anything like
many
that?
moving parts. There's a load of moving parts, of
It's
course.
not easy, is it? Like even when they did it on EastEnders, which is a professional like acting outlet with lots and lots of resources and money, they ballsed up the live show, right? Why on earth would you risk doing something like that? Like, I mean, the thing that gets me is this concept. Like, there's two ways of thinking about this with crisis actors, right? Okay, either right, you've got a jobbing actor, somebody that's like one day going to play the Dane, right? But he's just not for whatever reason. So you approach him and go, I need you for the sake of the country to pretend to be Marcus from fucking Wolverhampton, and you're going to get your legs blown off, and then you're going to die. But you'll be in the papers and everything for a little bit, right? Okay, but then you can't ever be seen again. You can't ever act again, and you can't take any credit for this role of a lifetime. Do you know any actor that's not going to want to take credit for something that they've done? If you do, then they're not a proper actor. Okay. Or the second alternative is that MI5 scout a load of people, sometimes numerous people from the same family, and basically, I don't know, approach them in the street and say, hey, we're MI5. I don't know whether you've ever considered pretending to be dead and going off to live in America. We could set that up for you if you like. All you'd need to do is blah, 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 blah. What if one of them gets cold feet or decides no or records you and sells that recording to the papers?
What about what
What
about
do you do
Project
then?
Artichoke?
It's just bollocks. It's just like it. Like again, do you know how many hundreds of people would need to be involved in to do something like that? The logistics of it is just outrageous. And it's all based on the assumption, it's a circular assumption. Oh, we know that they've faked stuff before. So we know that they might fake stuff. So I'm looking at this through the lens that it might be fake. And it's like, that's fucking arse backwards, right? What you should do is find evidence and then follow the evidence, not
Oh
start with the
yes,
premise
yes.
and then try and fit the facts around the premise. It's absolutely stupid. And this is the point. So that's why I don't believe Richard's theory on this. Do I think Richard's a bad person? No, I think Richard's an ace person, and I think some of his previous work is absolutely brilliant. I think he got this one wrong, but I also think that if nobody had been there to defend him, if I hadn't have been there to defend him, and granted, it wasn't much of a defense on the television show, but if you listen to the radio show, I try and put it in perspective and say that he's coming from a good place. He thinks that he's doing a good thing. He doesn't think that he's being cruel to these people. He thinks that he's saving the billions of other people on the planet, and he's doing it from a position of thinks he's cashing the government in a crime. Okay. And that's important to understand. Is he wrong? Yes. Was his investigation uh, insensitive? Oh, good God, yes. Oh my
Mm.
God, yes. Some of the things that he did, he shouldn't have done. He just
Of
shouldn't have done.
course not. Of course not. And when I saw some of that stuff, I was like, we're taking this a little bit too. I mean, look. I mean, as you say, he does see himself as a journalist, and journalists do go to people's houses to get
Mhm.
information and to interview. So in that respect, I've got no issue. The GoPro stuff and all that, that is that. Yeah, yeah. We're doing a little
Well,
bit too much.
well, precisely. And you know what? There would have been ways that you could investigate this without the people even knowing, and no need for it's the hidden camera things. That's the thing. That's an invasion of somebody's privacy. I understand why he's trying to do it and stuff like that, but that's just it's
Mm,
beyond the pale. That like
yeah,
you wouldn't like it if somebody did it to you. So you've got to put yourself in that other person's perspective. Like, and you
totally.
go, no, that's an infringement of my rights. There's ways and means that you can could have done the same investigation that would have yielded, you know, possibly even more satisfactory evidence or whatever, like without doing that.
Mm,
Like, but again, he had the rabbit in his sights, didn't he? That's what he's
yes.
going for. Like,
Yeah.
and he's got caught up with it basically. But again, that is the point that I was trying to make. I mean, it's interesting how the panorama thing actually came about because when we first started doing it, I wasn't really supposed to be in it. I was supposed to be like a minor thing, and it was supposed to be about Brent, who's the guy that I do someday I call it conspiracy with. And it was supposed to be all about him and his journey from being a completely hardcore, like totally didn't trust anything that was on the news, entertained almost every single conspiracy theory going. Like
Yes.
he basically, when certain things happened, he started questioning it. Like basically the fakery, for example, he's like, well, I thought this was all supposed to be blood sacrifices. Why would they do fakery? And then when like things like Trump got in and Brexit happened, he's like, well, this is in opposition to everything that I've been told. Like this does this not disprove the New World Order theory? And stuff like this made him start to question things. And it was supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be about his journey. And there was a bit where he met up with a survivor from 7/7 and they had a chat and it was quite moving. That was
Mm.
what the program was supposed to be about. And I
And
was
they filmed this as well. This is actually
yeah.
filmed.
Oh, all of this is filmed, yeah, and it came out as
Flipping.
part of the radio show. I think it's episode 8. But basically, and my job was to just give a bit of perspective, just
Yeah.
like say what it's like in the conspiracy world, who's a big player, who does
Mm.
this, how it works, because most people just don't understand it.
A source person in essence.
Yeah, yeah. And then what happened was basically the Sandy Hook trial happened, and Alex Jones got charged millions and millions of pounds or dollars or whatever, or both.
Trillions, yeah.
And they were like, "There's too many similarities to this to Richard." And what had happened was actually the various people who like were not happy with Richard had approached the BBC. Like it wasn't like a lot of people think that the BBC sort of went after Richard. That's not how it happened at all. In fact, they weren't really going to touch it until basically it became something that like the similarities to Sandy Hook were so sort of the great that basically it was something that the public would understand. Do you see what I mean? So basically, like it suddenly became the far more saleable story. And halfway through the whole process, this is why Brent's not in the television show at all, and I'm only in it for 15 seconds, basically. Uh,
Ah.
so, so
So the
that's why,
families, so you're saying some of the families have approached BBC saying, look,
yeah,
but we can see what's happening in America in essence. Like we've got
yeah,
this
kind of.
guy.
I mean, they'd approached the BBC before that because basically they were like they were sick of being harassed. Like they're like some of the things like again, people are well-meaning and stuff like that, but they lose track of where the humanity is in a lot of this. Like some of these people get like they've had to move house, they've had to constantly change emails, they have people turn up at their jobs and taunt them about their dead children in a very
Which is
similar way to the way that some people have
no,
taunted like survivors of Sandy Hook
no,
and parents
no,
of Sandy Hook and stuff like
no,
that.
no. That's you cannot do that. I don't
No,
care who you are. That is you cannot do that.
And does Richard want that? No. Has he even imagined that that would happen? No. And this is why I had a choice at this point because this is going to be about Richard. Like, and basically, yeah, we're going for him because we think he's the UK's Alex Jones. Do you want to be involved? And they said essentially, if you're not involved, nobody's going to give Richard's perspective. It's going to be a total hit piece. So I was like, okay, fair enough. I'll give it a whirl. And
Which in essence it was, which and you gave, as you say, you gave your 15 seconds, gave a glimpse. And if anybody wanted to dig, they would have gone onto the BBC Sounds and they would have listened to the various episodes and got that detail to say, actually, maybe he's wrong, but like he's not. It's not like how they portrayed it on the old panorama and the old
no,
TV.
yeah. Now here's an interesting thing. I haven't spoken to them, but through Mariana Spring, she's told me that some of the people that were involved with it, the people that were injured and lost children
Hmm.
and stuff like that, they actually were glad that me and Brent were able to speak and give some perspective because it gave them a bit of a sort of greater understanding about it and less. It painted Richard, which is what he's supposed to do, is less of a sort of evil cartoon villain and just somebody that's got sort of caught up in something. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're any less cross with him, like
Yeah.
which is completely understandable. But
It's humanizing because ultimately, as soon as you mention Mr. Alex Jones, you
yeah,
think of that cartoon type character who's a multi-millionaire from supplements and all other stuff, who provides entertainment and at times in the past some
yeah.
very valid information.
I got phoned up, mate, by some broadsheets, like various papers that people would know if I told them what the names were. And all of them, the first question they asked me was, "So is Richard D. Hall the UK's Alex Jones?"
Hmm,
That was it. And when I said no and gave a long and detailed answer as to why he was completely different, that's why you've
completely.
not seen me in any of those broadsheets because not a single interview was printed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did a couple. Like so, yeah, they weren't interested at that point. That was the point. The papers had got the that was the story that they wanted to run with. As
You
is that
know, I was worried.
there?
I was worried, and I'm glad it hasn't sort of escalated. But I thought that are they going to go down this same route and try and do what they've done to Alex Jones to
What's to it?
yeah.
And there's still a very real possibility that that might happen. I mean,
Would
it's
that
not
be?
the same as America,
Of course not. It'd be
but
would it under libel? I guess
I'm not really or defamation, I suppose. I
defamation.
mean,
Yeah.
like it's the gentleman who's in the wheelchair that's sort of leading it. But there's a few. But this is the point. This is the collective of parents that are that cross with Richard that's why they were approaching the BBC. That's why they were trying to get a lawsuit going. Is to stop him. I know that sounds more sinister, but like not to stop him because he's speaking the truth, but to stop him because of the flack that they're getting, basically. So, and I find I think it's again, this is why I did it because, like I like Richard. I've got so
Mm,
much time for Richard. Like, but having met and spoken to some of these people or heard their story and whatnot. Sorry, as opposed to met spoken to, you can understand nobody would want that harassment, and Richard wouldn't want
of
to
course
do
not.
that. This is the
No.
point. Like he's just got a bit too close to this. He's just got swept up in it. He's a good person.
I think it's well, only time will tell.
Yeah,
Trustfully, the family are at a point where like it's come out now he hasn't continued at least maybe the harassment maybe has decreased
I
totally.
I think he could make a lot of his problems go away with a sincere apology. The problem is that he's kind of somewhat doubled down and gone, all right, I didn't mean to do this and I shouldn't have done that, but I still don't think that it's real. And it's like, dude, like, come on. Like, but um again, we'll see, really.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
have any say in that. Can you
of,
believe?
of course, of course,
Like,
of course.
but
you you you
again,
mentioned that your friend sat down with, where your co-host slash friend sat down with one of the a 7/7 survivor,
yeah.
so Yeah, what are your thoughts on 7/7 and I mean, forget the crisis actor
I
stuff.
think there's a lot of
I'm not
questions that
into
need to be asked about it. Like what it was with that Brent did was basically they got on a message board and kind of I'm not even sure exactly the details of it. They concocted some sort of theory like right off from the bat, and I don't think it was even one of the mainstream theories. Basically, like he felt badly about his role in wild speculation, not even sort of like examination of like CCTV footage or anything like that. As
Mhm.
far as my understanding goes, he felt that he sort of let his imagination run away with him, and he'd not realised that it's all very well and good. Again, similar sort of thing that these real people are going through, like they've lost limbs,
Yes,
etc., etc., and they don't really need this sort of
attention.
craziness. I mean, Brent was at the point where he used to think that the order of bands that went on at Glastonbury was some sort of ritual like and stuff like that, like proper fucking vigilant Christian shit, like and vigilant citizen, I think he used to be called, and all that sort of stuff. Like literally everything. There was nothing. Like this is the difference, right? Okay, we've not abandoned conspiracy theories. We're positive that conspiracy theories happen, right? Okay, we can list you a dozen, like the Vatican banking scandal, MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, the death of Roberta Calvi, the BCCI banking scandal, the death of David Kelly, the death of Daniel.
Patrice Lumumba.
Yeah, precisely. Right. Okay. There are conspiracies that happen. What Bren was involved in and has sort of moved himself out of, and what we want to sort of like move people away from, is conspiracism to the point where basically everything's planned, nothing is random, everything has some sort of ritual significance. If the news says it's Tuesday, it must be Thursday. Like if science says that the Earth is round, it must be flat. This
Neil. You've got. I'm totally with you. Totally with you. Compass Mentis. But you can understand, understand, and overstand. At one point, I'm sure you was there yourself when you kind of
absolutely, yeah.
peeled away from the, and you're like, wait a minute, and you're seeing things, and things are being confirmed. Not again, not with everything.
Mhm.
Once we've had this crisis after thing, and let's look at
Well, I
also
never
the
bought that crap. Like, and I never bought Paul McCartney's dead, and I've never bought that the Earth is flat. And I've
whoa, Paul
never bought.
McCartney's dead.
Oh yeah, have you not heard that one?
Oh, is it? Oh, and they're saying that he's
He
been
was
there's
replaced
enough.
in the
Yeah,
'60s by
replaced. Yeah,
somebody who's
yeah.
now been Paul McCartney longer than Paul McCartney was
Paul
Paul McCartney.
McCartney, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those ones you just giggle and like it was interesting. I'm like, okay.
Well, absolutely, but this is the point. But that's the sensible way of doing it. I'm not dismissing any of these things, and these are fascinating. I want there desperately to be a Loch Ness monster and a Bigfoot, and etc., etc., etc. And I know how the
Lucky.
ultra happened, and I know that there's propaganda agents in the newspapers, and I know that there's elements of mind control through politics at the minute. But that's not the same as letting everything just like believing, being a contrarian essentially. And
Yes.
then you put into it the politics and the fact that basically you've got the weaponization of conspiracy theory at the minute. You've got people like GB News taking
Oh
advantage of
my God, I
ready-made
know.
article, like yeah, exactly. This is the
Yeah.
point. Like, they've got a ready-made like demographic or market or whatever, and they know that if they just say a few things, it can get
Yes.
one side. And
Hmm.
it's such an obvious con. And I don't understand it. But this was again, people like Breitbart did it, and Milo Yiannopoulos and Ben Shapiro
Yes.
and Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson,
Yeah.
to a lesser extent Joe Rogan. They're all copying, even like Tucker Carlson and Fox News, they're all copying Alex Jones's bombastic style.
Mm. Oh
And
yeah.
throwing enough shit at the wall because it's entertaining. Russell Brand, he's another one that's gone down that route. You've got a series of doctors who've realised that basically people are disenfranchised and angry with the situation of just the world situation. Having to take medicines, like the worry of people getting ill and stuff
Well,
like that.
Neil,
And physicians, like
can
there's a ready-made market who want to pay money to be told that they're right.
agreed. Can you confirm again on your position reference um the experimental stuff that people were given?
It's not
Like,
experimental. Why?
are
It's not
you're
experimental.
pro it in
It's had
essence?
phase three trials on both humans and animals. In fact, the Pfizer vaccine is the most tested medicine in the history of the world. There's been several billion doses given, and in the UK, there's been 59 cases that have been connected fatalities connected to the vaccine. Like anybody saying otherwise,
Directly connected,
like,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Now, do you know the unreported, the
Yeah, I do know the unreported. Do you know the mechanism of why that's bollocks? Because the vaccine doesn't remain in your body for longer than 72 hours. So if you're going to have an adverse effect to it, then it's going to happen in the first 2 hours. Also, I've got a list of adverse effects, like for this very question. I can bring it up if you want. They include things like my penis growing, my penis shrinking, turning into the Incredible Hulk, going gay, like suddenly liking different types of food. Like, there's all sorts of bollocks on there. I put it on there on the yellow card. As soon as it started, I put that it filled my head with eels, and they accepted it. So the public notification system, the VAERS and the yellow card on its own isn't evidence because anybody can put anything through there. But can you believe that actually people have a vested interest in checking those and making sure that these things aren't
of
killing?
course there's no well, okay, so all right
Can
then.
you give me an example of when they have? And don't
So
say, yeah, like with Bill Gates, because that never happened.
there's been no excess deaths
No, the excess
post.
deaths, we know exactly what the excess deaths are. Excess deaths follow every pandemic. If you look at the Spanish flu, there was excess deaths in every single country for 20 years past that. The excess deaths are explained by a backlog, still COVID. You know, like in the UK, do you know how many people are dying of COVID every week still?
I'm hearing varying numbers,
It's about
and
100 a
again,
day.
but
Anyway, so there's COVID. There's also there's the overlap from COVID. People like with weakened immune systems, long COVID, damage to organs such as lungs, liver, brain. In fact, actually, and it can also cause massive problems with your heart and ischemic heart disease. And then basically you've got the backlog created by the fact that some services were either depleted or not, running on full capacity. So it's incredibly straightforward. You can track the excess deaths um, almost side by side with every single new wave of COVID. Every time there's a new wave of COVID, the excess deaths rise. They don't correlate with the vaccinated at all. If they did, what you'd see is the highest excess deaths in the most vaccinated areas, and you just don't. In fact, you see the bang opposite of that.
so you mentioned that 72 hours and the vaccine's gone. How
Uh,
how does it that's out of the
I
system?
think 72 to it's like a few days basically. Like so and then once it's there, it's not gone. And there's nothing in there that will cause you damage. Anyway, with the mRNA one, that's sort of the point of the mRNA process is that it triggers the immune response without actually having the nasty spike protein that would trigger the immune response if you sort of caught it in the wild, so to speak. And like, with the Moderna and things like that, they give
But the
you a
spike proteins naturally occurring versus the genetically modified
It's not
mRNA.
genetically modified, is it though? Because it's the mRNA is a part of the construct of your genetics, and it doesn't alter your
Yes.
genetics because it doesn't go anywhere near the nucleus, and it hasn't got the properties that can alter the DNA. This idea that it's experimental is nonsense. Like it's been fully tested. There are a few publications where people have said they've rolled out and it said, look, it describes it here as experimental, but the context is clearly in the idea that this is a burgeoning new technology in the same way that Tesla could be described as an experimental car. It's not experimental as in we don't know what it's going to do. It's
No, no.
experimental as in it's a pioneer within its field.
Yes, but now you've said that it's had the most testing.
I can send you them if you want. Would you? Have you actually looked into it? Have you read the reports on the testing?
I've looked at
Because
the
it
Moderna.
exists. There's
Yeah, and
In fact,
the
the bollocks that people were saying of it's still under review until 2023. That's in 2 days' time. That's the 31st of January. Okay, and that's the phase 4 aftermarket trial. Moderna, that phase 4 aftermarket that finished a couple of weeks ago.
and the majority of the testing
Hmm.
wasn't done on human beings.
That's not true at all. Where did you hear that nonsense?
prior to it
You're
being
gonna tell me
rolled
about
out,
the
Neil.
ferrets now, are you?
No, no, no. Prior to it being rolled out, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the
That's
obviously.
bollocks. That's utter bollocks. They went through three phases of animal testing and then they went through three phases of human testing. And there were more test subjects, human test subjects, available and participating than have participated in any trial ever. You know why? Because people were fucking bored.
and and obviously with the testing, with the trials that were taking place, so you've got the placebo and obviously the real. Now, if you could indeed send me the specific numbers, I would love to see them because everything that I've seen shows that there's a higher uptake in regards to the free phase animal trial versus the human trial, and the numbers of
Well,
the human trials were a lot lower.
no, that's not true at all.
Oh, you don't
It's
need
just
to do it
not
now, Neil.
true.
Don't worry. You don't need to do it now. Send it me, and I can. If is it a PDF
I
or a
think it's
link?
widely available. I think if you just Google it, you'll find it out.
We'll check that out. We'll check that out.
But yeah, this idea that they're experimental is silly. Like it's absolutely there's so many silly things. This idea, this concept of shedding, this idea that they're causing the excess deaths. Like it, let's be honest, let's put all our cards on the table. That's bollocks. Most of you know it's bollocks, but you've got to keep this narrative up because otherwise you look fucking stupid for being afraid of the medicine for 3 years.
Yeah, I think for some people that will be indeed accurate, and for others who, even if it was what we're talking about, some people
Can you
don't
give me an
take.
example of a harmful vaccine? Like just name one that was really bad.
Oh, the first phase of the polio killed how many damn children that came out?
None of them have killed children. What are you on about? You're talking about the one in the India thing, aren't you?
Not the India. But the first polo. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
polio. Did oh well that's well no,
yeah, it
that's
killed
not
loads of
true.
children. It did.
Let's have a
It
look. Let's see if
did,
that's the polio
Neil.
vaccine. Right, so you wouldn't have the polio vaccine now, would
Well,
you?
as a child, obviously, when I couldn't make the decisions as an adult.
Oh,
I
the
would have had
Cutter
the.
incident. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, I know about this. Yeah.
Yeah, there's loads of them. That's one of the prime ones I go for. But anyway, outside of
Yeah,
that,
but the
I
Cutter incident
personally.
was like that. That's like ridiculously early in the thing. That's like saying, "Oh, I wouldn't trust a bulletproof vest because the first bulletproof vest test all
No, that's a
done."
very
It's
different,
exactly like that. That's entirely
very
why they do this.
different.
Well, go on then. You show me where. Well, all right then, Noble. Right, let's settle this because it's really simple. You know, after those children died in the Cutter experiment, did they change their protocols and alter the
Exactly.
medicine? Hang on.
Yes.
Or did they continue doing exactly the same thing? Because if they continue doing exactly the same thing, I could understand your skepticism. But if they went, shit, best not do that again, that killed some kids.
Exactly.
Right. So that's how you find stuff out. That so you're never going to sit in a car because the first cars were death traps. That's the logic?
No, no, that's not the logic.
That is the
You asked.
logic. Well,
No, it
explain
isn't the
why it's
logic.
different from that then.
No, it isn't the logic. You asked the question. What name me a vaccination
All
which has
right, no,
killed?
fair enough. Okay,
Yeah.
but I
So I
still
just.
don't think but that's not a vaccine that's like you know again that's a very slippery way of answering that question. That's not a vaccine that is still widely used that they're denying that it caused problems or anything. This is the theory with that vaccines are bad, that your MMR, that your flu vaccine, that all of these modern vaccines
Okay.
are killing
Okay.
people, and it's just
Here's
not
one.
true.
Here's one. Not
Yeah,
necessarily about deaths. The triple, was it the
the MMR.
MR, yeah.
Are you really? Are you really? Do you know
I'm
what?
gonna go
Go on,
there.
you go on, explain to
I'm
me.
gonna go.
You tell me
I'm gonna
now.
go there. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
there
okay, okay,
because
fine. Good, because you must know what you're talking about with this. Because, like,
yes,
right. So tell me
to
what.
a
And
point.
right,
To
shush, shush, shush. What was Andrew Wakefield's theory of why the MMR vaccine actually caused autism? Explain it to me in your own
no,
words.
no, I couldn't. I can't explain that
Right.
to
Well,
you.
it's kind of fucking vital because that's the reason that you would believe him is because of
I'm
what he's
not.
found out.
No,
So, do you know
no,
what
no,
he
no.
found out?
I'm not. I'm not. I am not going on. I'm not
Right, well,
going
I'll
up.
tell you what he found out. Right, okay. And he did this experiment on 12 children, only 12 children. When he was asked to repeat this on 150 children, he refused. Of these 12 children, he didn't see results in two of them, and one of them was autistic before they even got the jab. his theory, and stop me at any time when you understand that this is nonsense. His theory was that in the MMR vaccine, right? Okay, it left a residue of measles in the stomach of these children. Now, do you know how many in these children he did daily colonoscopies and probed their stomach pretty deeply, right? Okay. Do you know how many of these children he found evidence of measles in their stomach?
64.
None, not a single one. Remember, there's only 12 in the experiment. Two of them basically didn't show any symptoms, and one of them was autistic before it. So there's 9 children that he's experimenting on. He didn't find the measles vaccine in any of these children. Do you know what his theory is? That the measles virus sits dormant in your stomach. It burns a hole in your stomach, and then that gets out. And then what happens is when you eat bread turns into morphine. Morphine gets out
Morphine.
of the hole in your stomach into your bloodstream, goes to your brain, and sends you autistic.
Wait a minute. Bread turn into morphine. Will turn into a sugar, and then how is the sugar then turn into a morphine? How does that work?
It's bollocks, Noble. The man's a fucking liar.
Okay.
And that is basically what the entirety of the anti-vax movement is based on.
Well,
That
well,
religious nonsense from the
uh,
fucking 18th century or whatever.
well, it would have been prior to the 18th century if we talk about religious dogma. But I am not. I haven't referenced that.
We hate
Um.
the
That.
MMR vaccine, and the reason that we hate the MMR vaccine is because of Andrew Wakefield and his study
No,
on.
no, 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 no. You're saying we. I'm giving you my explanation in
Go on, then.
regards to that vaccination. I can't get my damn words out. Sorry, at the moment. That vaccination and the uptake in children, because obviously prior to that,
Yeah,
the dosage was a single. You jab this baby with that vaccination. 3 weeks later or 3 months later, they come back, and that's how it was done. Now they've combined this all into one hit, and
yeah,
then in
and what
three
you're doing,
months later,
and so
they've.
you believe that it causes bread to turn into morphine, which
No, no, no. I'm
right,
not
because
going into the
that's the
pro.
theory.
Well,
So
I'm
that's the
not.
reason that Andrew Wakefield will tell you not to take it. So if
Well,
you think that's rubbish, then there's no reason for you to be suspicious of the
I
vaccine.
can be suspicious about it
Well, why?
because if okay, let me get my thoughts fully out before you jump in, Neil. Give me a moment, yeah?
And this is entirely the point of conspiracism. And like, okay, this is the point of
Neil,
like,
Neil, 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 stop for a moment. Stop, 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 stop,
sorry.
stop. So we can see if we go back anecdotally and
Mm,
look at growing up and the rates of what you can physically see around your environment, going to
of
schools,
course,
etc., etc.,
yeah, it's gone
and
up.
seeing the news of oh, autism, oh, what is that, it was all new, when I was growing up. I had no idea, and the different types of being on the spectrum and stuff. And as we've gotten older, and
Yeah.
as we've seen how, as I say, with the vaccination routine and regime, which has gone up exponentially as per when we were children, and now we can see more of these neurological issues with children. So
Yeah, you do know the
looking at it.
principle for it. We have a better understanding, like we have better brain scans and stuff like that. And also, you know what else has increased exponentially? The power of computer games. What's to say that it isn't computer games? It's Xboxes causing autism. I mean, like, when we were kids, like we only had Mega Drives and stuff like that. That's what, 16-bit? Now we're on what? Incredible bit.
Exactly,
I think
exactly.
there's a correlation. Prove that it's not that. Prove that it's not
Well,
Xboxes
that
causing kids.
that would be a theory, but that would
No,
be
no,
more
here's an
real.
interesting one,
Well,
right?
let
What
me.
it
What
might actually
Neil,
genuinely
slow down,
cause. Sorry,
Slow
sorry.
down for a minute. So that would be more related, unless you're saying as soon as the child is born, someone is sitting that child in front of a computer game
You
and
don't need
trying to
to.
get them.
You don't need to. You don't need to. It leaches out of the computer box into the atmosphere and gets trapped in the brickwork of houses. Right? Okay. You could even pick it up and give it to your children. Like I've been playing PlayStation all my life. Good God knows what it'll do to my children. It might give them that autism through me playing the PlayStation. Prove I'm lying.
That's
This is the point,
ridiculous.
it's not good enough to say there's a correlation, particularly when basically the mechanism by which that explanation is clearly silly. Right. Okay. In the same way that I'm like, there's nothing leaching out of my PlayStation that's causing autism. Right. But equally, there's nothing in bread that's turning into morphine that's causing autism after the MMR shot. There's just no mechanism for it. It's not a thing.
So
I
the
understand why people might be suspicious of institutions. I understand why people might not want to have medicines. I understand why people will be suspicious of the government and think that the government might not actually have our best interests at heart. But I don't understand people's willingness to just believe one person on the internet just because they say something. Like that is something where it's like, hang on, should we not check this perhaps? Like,
exactly
but
that
it's the point when you then do go and check these things, you find out that there's a lot of nonsense that's